Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to another coffee time to discuss some horror movies together. And I'm here today finally to talk about Men.
It's coffee time.
So Men finally came out here in the Netherlands. The official release date here in the Netherlands is the 16th of June, even though they did drop it a couple of days earlier. And because this is an art house, it runs always very late at night. So I went to it as soon as I could, and I have thoughts, a lot of them. And it is a really interesting film. I do understand why some people love it and some people hated it, and I'm going to give you my spoiler-free review since I want you guys to have the same experience that I had when I went to see the film, which is basically not knowing much about it at all and then just see what happens. Obviously this is a spoiler-free review. I am considering to make a spoiler review separate because there is a lot of things that I would like to address about the film. It wouldn't be such a long video, it would be just more to comment about those spoiler parts that I thought were genius and were great in the film. So yeah, anyway, let's start with our spoiler-free review of Men. This A24 movie is directed by Alex Garland, and what we have here could be described as a folk horror. Now, I have seen Ex Machina and Annihilation. I have not seen anything else by the director, but I kind of had a feeling of what I was getting myself into, or so I thought. The film in general has received good critics, especially when it comes to the cinematography, the work on the soundtrack, and the acting. However, it has been criticized due to the themes and also due to the storyline. And I completely understand why some people had issues with those things, and I feel like this movie, it is in a way controversial, but it is the good way in which when you leave the cinema you are asking yourself questions, you are trying to figure out what the hell you just saw. And that is a great actually movie experience if you are a regular moviegoer like I am. In most cases I already know what I'm gonna get before I watch the movie. When I go out, it's like a brief commentary of what I saw, like nothing that really leaves me a little bit speechless at times, and this movie did manage that, so I have to give it to it. In the aftermath of a personal tragedy, Harper retreats alone to the beautiful English countryside, hoping to have found a place to heal. But someone or something from the surrounding woods appears to be stalking her. What begins as kind of just having a little bit of a fear that somebody's watching you turns into full-on psychotic nightmare. And especially when you're getting to the end, there are some things you're going to see you will never be able to forget. At its core, Men, it's an exploration of grief and all the hardship and all the things that you need to go through on the road to recovery. Let's talk about the characters, because honestly in this movie we only have 4 characters, and if you have seen the trailer for the film that I have watched many times, because also something that happens when you're a regular moviegoer, you already know that there's one specific character, one specific actor I should say, that plays multiple male characters in the film. So all in all we just have 4 characters, and that is all it's needed really for this movie, which obviously there's a lot of character exploration here. The story of our main character Harper gets revealed little by little as you keep watching the movie, and it is quite a powerful story. And at some point of the movie you are going to kind of question the things that she's seeing, the things that she's feeling, and you kind of question a little bit if all is reality or not. Her performance was so good that even the little times where the movie was a little bit weaker for me, I was still like super engaged and focused on the story. I was always like hyper aware of everything that was happening on the screen, which is something that doesn't happen to me with a lot of movies. There are some movies that, you know, I am less focused and paying a little bit less attention to all the dialogue and all the little details, which is obviously not the case with A24 movies. And I would say that this is a very you know, a typical A24 film. There's many moments where you're gonna see the character of Harper and in the mansion, in nature, exploring the woods, and everything is kind of connecting the character and her emotions, and everything is told through images, and the cinematography, especially outside, it is just stunning. But even though our main character basically wanted to go to this mansion, to the countryside, to escape her past and her trauma, she's going to be trapped in this mansion with herself and with everything that she's going through, and now with this threat of something or someone that might be in the woods kind of hunting her. Let's talk about Rory Kinnear, who is the guy that plays basically most men in this film, and I was so impressed by the way that he could shapeshift into different characters and change his behavior kind of a little bit, because at the end of the day they all feel like the same character, and I think that's what was intended as well. There's not much that I can tell you about it without spoiling anything, but I was really pleased with his performance. I think he was the strongest one in this film, and I was just having so much fun with his character. I feel like Alex Garland in his previous film Ex Machina and in Annihilation has done something similar now with Men, which is the way that he gives you this feeling of dread, this feeling of something is unsettling. It kind of keeps you in tension. It kind of gives you this suspense that only he's able to build to this level, together with, you know, such a beautiful soundtrack and the creepiness of the place, not just outside but also inside, when you feel trapped in that home, in that mansion that seems to be so big, but all of a sudden it also feels so small, and our main character feels like it's trapped in there. We have those beautiful woods, which, as I mentioned before, the cinematography outside in the woods, the little camera details with the zooming, it was just so beautiful, so stunning. And a lot of people have mentioned the scene with the tunnel, which is also fantastic. It is absolutely amazing. The only thing with me with the movie was that as we were approaching the climax, even with all of that, it started to feel a little bit weaker for me in general. Now, when it comes to the visuals, we are kind of used to colors in his movies, and you do get to see bright, intense colors, but we also have a lot of scenes that are shot at night and in the mansion that are a little bit more of a dimmed color, and those are so creepy, and you don't know what to expect anymore, which is part of why the tension when it comes to horror was built so well for this movie. Let's address the elephant in the room, which is the themes of the movie, which I'm not really going to go into detail. If you've seen spoilers, you know what the themes kind of are. The only thing I wanted to mention regarding that is that I didn't have any problem with the themes. I feel like they were explored in a way that it was a little bit different from the way that other movies have done it, and the attention paid to detail when it comes to the visuals, when it comes to the script, just gave you such a different perspective on things, and it was just subtle. I don't think it was so on your face. The problem is that it is very repetitive, so there is a lot of the same theme and the same stuff over and over again, which I understand why that can be a problem for a lot of people. Now, another thing that I will mention when it comes to the themes is that sometimes they're a little bit like brushed over. They're not, the ideas are not perhaps presented in a way that is easier for people to, you know, put the pieces of the puzzle together. So this might be quite frustrating for certain viewers. I feel like even for myself, I had to really be hyper aware of everything, and really, I was even kind of going through things in my head as I was watching the movie to try to keep up, because I think that's gonna put some people off and they're not gonna be able to grasp everything in this film, especially not if you just watch it like one time. What I mean by that is like it kind of gives you a sense of disconnect at times, which I feel were for me the moments that they felt a little bit weaker. When it comes to the horror, let's address that. So the horror comes mostly from the surroundings where our main character is, Harper, and obviously the men that you get to see in the trailer. That's what I'm gonna say about that. I gotta give it to Garland because there was something that he did that it was so subtle and so little, but it was for me the most unsettling part of the movie, and it's just so random and small. It gives to show you how good he is at creating that horror, that atmosphere, that creepiness that other movies try but fail because maybe they try too hard. Like what he did is just so simple, but it was so effective. Apart from that, I am going to praise also this movie for the excellent body gore and body horror. I'm not gonna go into detail what happens there because that will be the spoiler part. Maybe I'll talk about it if I make another video just to talk about spoilers. And since you've already probably heard, the ending is quite crazy, bonkers. A lot of things go on at the end, and I absolutely had a blast with it, but I understand why for some people the ending might have been a little bit too much. At the end of the day, I ended up giving this movie a 3.5 out of 5. I would recommend you guys to check out this film, but please be aware that this is a bizarre, nightmarish movie with a very specific theme or two themes that are kind of repeated constantly throughout the film, so you can maybe read spoilers and see if that's something you would be interested in. It's basically going to give you nightmares. There's some things that you're gonna see in this movie that you hope you could unsee and I think it's going to create a really interesting conversation between, you know, moviegoers, horror fans, because when you leave this movie, you do ask yourself, what the heck did you just see? What you just witnessed? And it's going to take you a while to process. I watched this movie on Sunday. I'm recording this video on a Tuesday, and I'm still thinking about it. I'm still kind of trying to put my thoughts together, and I am like seeing more and more details in the movie now, and I think it's gonna be one of those that it's gonna be really interesting to revisit at some point. I do feel like Alex Garland deserves to be in the same pool of like new interesting voices in horror, like Robert Eggers, Ari Aster, or even Jordan Peele. So honestly, at the end of the day, even though I went a little bit scared, not knowing if I was going to enjoy it or not, I ended up having a good time. I mean, as much of a good time as you can have with a movie like this, but I would be super interested to know if you guys watched it, if you enjoyed it, and also let me know which is your favorite horror A24 movie. Let's talk about it in the comments down below. I hope that you enjoyed this spoiler-free review of the film, and I hope to see you all, as always, in our next coffee time. Bye!